Billy comes home from school and his world begins to darken as he passes below the willow tree at the end of his garden. He goes upstairs into the corner of his room, grabs his duvet and sinks into his gaming cocoon. There's a definite stench to his room, but he doesn't seem to mind. He puts his disc in and begins to unwind. The box begins to whir and the graphics load up. He reclines and wipes away his proverbial makeup. The game's done installing and the character appears on screen with the usual warning, he should probably be 18. Now begins the hard part, as it's his turn to decide. What part should be what, and what should be modified? He ponders on his character's appearance. Should he and his virtual perception have some form of coherence? Billy had black hair, and he liked his blue eyes, though there were parts of him he wished he could resize. Should he be tall or short, or fat or thin, or bold and attractive, or socially inactive? Though the big decision left him with the most indecision. To Billy, gender seemed a bit silly, but should his character have a willow tree at the end of his garden too? Such a character-defining thought felt long overdue. It had always been there, never been questioned. He'd grown up with it, but was only now aware that not everyone has a tree at the front of their home. It's just part of his house. There were a chromosome. But why a chromosome, or anything really, could be so defining and yet so involuntary, was a concept that wholeheartedly escaped Billy. Would it really matter if the world saw him as someone without a willow tree at the end of his garden? Billy began to realise a few more things about his avatar. A few more things that just seemed bizarre. Why was it that Billy was seen as a nerd? Why was it that Billy and attractive, in the same sentence, seemed absurd? Billy came to the conclusion it all meant nothing. How he appeared to others wasn't worth fussing over. And over anything else, what mattered was what he thought. And what he thought was he probably had better things that he ought to be thinking about. So Billy was confronted with the next menu. He now was confronted with picking a venue, an arena in which to spend his days, living and sleeping. This would now be his always. And this scared Billy. It was overwhelmingly daunting. He didn't want to spend his life wanting to know if he should have picked differently, if this life choice would leave him living life miserably. And so his future rested gently in his hands. But his hands lacked experience of anything outside a small village south of Canberra Sands. They lacked security and confidence, knowledge and precision, and all the same, they were faced with a pivotal decision. So without any assurance of certainty, he picked a server. That was it. He would ponder it no further. And as he gazed around his surroundings, he began to think. And as he thought, he realised his room did in fact stink. It stank of him, of Billy, no one else and nothing more. And for all the quests there were no people to explore in this virtual world. Like his room, it was empty. He was alone, with no partners and no friends that he could call his own. Billy was confronted with a thought that maybe he was doomed to play in a private server. Maybe this lack of companionship would be his virtual reality forever. Maybe this virtually would be his reality, even when the game ended. And this had always scared Billy, however much he otherwise pretended. And it wasn't long before he played the game through night until dawn. And it wasn't long before it dawned on him, his biggest fear of all. Would he ever find a companion with whom he could roam on his computer? Would he ever find a companion with whom he could share his daunting future? Would there ever be a Mrs. Billy with whom he could have a family? And though it seemed quite silly to Billy, maybe this lifelong partner may too have a Willie.